Well, Dave, more or less, I know you got a game against Kidsgrove coming up. Well, more or less, the pre-season's done and dusted for your main squad. Happy with how it's gone and what you've learned?
Yeah, so far, I think there's still elements to work on, elements to improve. It's been relatively untroubled and smooth. There's still, like I said, still areas to that need attention in terms of how we play, what we need to do, personnel. So, yeah, we still, you never stop being a work in progress. Obviously, pre-season has a significant impact on how you go about it, because you get the time, sort of like the spotlight, to work on things and stuff like that. So, look, we are quite happy with where we're at, and I'll be honest with you, if the season started 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have been disappointed, because it's football, and we all just want to play football.
The one thing that when we talk in this particular time of the year that managers and coaches are praying for, that you get through the games, you play the games that you wanted to set out and play, and you have no injuries. But you've had one or two little niggles here and there. How are things looking ahead at the weekend, the likes of Lowry, Mandron and Lancashire?
Well, two of them have been training. The other one's had an injection. And they're all sort of, we've got a couple of other players that have got niggles. It's sort of to be expected. You just don't want your big ones. You don't want your 8, 12 week plus 4 or 5 months ones. Everything else you can sort of accept and handle and just taking your stride kind of thing. You don't want them, obviously, but if you're going to get some niggles, you get your 1, 2, 3 weekers, and like I said, we've got a couple of them, but nothing disastrous.
One thing that we do know for the weekend is that Will Yaskalainen has got his call up, because he's done very well and done great with you last season and really progressed in his career. But he isn't with you for the first game of the season. We already spoke to Dave Richards. We reminded him of memorable nights that he had at Middlesbrough. But not only that, the way that he goes about his role and his job, because it is a position where he has to be patient, and he gets the first shout this weekend.
Trig, he got a new contract, whatever it was, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and it was fully deserved. We've got to be so careful with our money and how we go about spending it, but that wasn't even a discussion in our office, because he's done well when he's been needed. He's done ever so well, and he's closer to Will than maybe some people think. He's matured lovely, and he's become a better goalkeeper year on year. And while he keeps progressing, he's going to have my time and Fred Barber's time and all the staff's time. And he's, like I say, coupled with a brilliant character, a good trainer. And like I say, he's going to get first dibs this weekend and on Tuesday against Bolton. So, hopefully he has a couple of good games there, and we'll see where we get to.
Are you getting ready for kick-off? It is the Cup. It is different this time. There are 2 Cup games to come for you before you actually kick off that big League One encounter that you've got against Charlton, which you worked hard to achieve last year. 1 or 2 clubs I've been hearing like they're treating it as an extra pre-season game. How are you viewing your 2 Cup ties? Really competitive?
Well, they're competitive. They're a League Cup game, and don't underestimate what Middlesbrough did to us last year. So you've got to give it the respect it deserves, because it's different. I can understand why people have taken the approach, but then and don't get me wrong, we've got 1 or 2 players that it might come at a good time, but at the same time, the vast majority of them it won't. The vast majority of them first game. So we've got to. We're not taking it lightly. Lincoln's going to be a real good for us, a good test, and we've got to make sure we're top and win the first season. At the end of the day, our last, I think it's 8 home games have all been wins. We want to win them.
You're right. Your home form last year was terrific, and going into that second half of the season before is fantastic. The only thing this time, of course, is those fans who've been behind you won't be there. That's going to be a significant difference.
Yeah. We obviously played Barnsley at the stadium a couple of Saturdays ago to try and get used to that. It's going to be different. There's no getting around it. But then everyone's in the same boat for the first few weeks, or for the minute, the first few weeks. So we've got to accept that. We've got to embrace that difference, and still play the way we need to play and win the games of football. Whether it's fans or not, we'd put everyone on their fans in. But once ever that's not possible, then we've got to go about it as we have done in pre-season, if you like.
The big factor that's come over this last couple of years is your continuity that you've had within your squad. Yes, there's been one or two outs have gone this year that have done fantastically well for you, but it's an important thing, isn't it? I think that's something that you've built down there, that continuity.
I think any football club is important, whether that be ownership, managers or players. I think revolution in football very rarely works. I think evolution is good. And I think that's, have we had to evolve this summer? Yes. Well, that's what we've plumped for. We're never going to turf out 15 of the lads, that's for sure. And likewise, if we'd have just stood still, maybe that wouldn't have been the best approach. But I suppose time will be the judge of that. But yeah, stability and that consistency, they're important words in a football club, whether right at the top or all the way down to the staff in the academy and players there as well. So like you say, it is important.
Just looking at your opponents this weekend, if you turn the clock back a couple of years from them, the Cowley brothers were there and they had some continuity and some success, and they won that League Two and they've consolidated in League One. But Michael Appleton's now in charge. It's been a big change, hasn't there? You're going to meet a squad of players on Saturday that's had a hell of a change around. Yeah,
I'm not sure how many players they've brought in. We haven't brought up them yet, but we will do today. Obviously they've got a relatively new manager, but fairly experienced. I know they've brought in some players, some we know even. So yeah, there's always that. I think there's going to be a greater bedding in period for some clubs this season. I do, because obviously the window goes right into the middle of October. I think there'll be players joining clubs that won't have had a full pre-season or had a pre-season somewhere else. So they might come in fit, but they're still getting used to our team players and what they do and relationships on the pitch. So I think that's important to understand that. I think we saw that at Bolton on Friday, to be honest, from them. The amount of turnover they've had of players. You could see that some of their players didn't maybe understand each other, there's characteristics on the pitch, which is not a criticism. I think Ian might admit to that. And obviously, we're hoping that every team's like that for the first 6 weeks, so we can do a mark. That's part and parcel of football. That's where good coaching comes in, and good players pick things up quicker than not so good players.
Just one final point on the recruitment. Where are you up to? Any developments? Anything happening? We know Luke Murphy's down there training. Anything with that, and anything with your possible other player?
Well, I think recruitment's always ongoing. There's internal recruitment. Players contracts that we have here. Obviously, external recruitment. So that's a continuous process throughout the year, really. There's 2 days that I particularly look forward to, and it's not the start of the season, and it's not the last game of the season. Most people think it's when the transfer window's shut, simply because you can sort of concentrate fully on what's in the building, and that's important. So yeah, it's still ongoing. We're still looking. We've still got our shopping bags in hand. We've still got a Tanner and an Halfpenny to try. by quality. But we'll try and do his business.
Yeah, just on back finally with Murph. You know, many people would have seen that he played on Friday. You know, and he settled himself down well. You must have had some talks of where you are together. You know, on a professional basis.
Yeah, look, I think I played with Murph when I was here, and he's a brilliant fella. I speak highly enough of him. And when I knew he'd like somewhere to train, I offered him the opportunity. He knows the football club like the back of his hand because he's been here since he was about 2.5 months old. So, you know, none of that needs describing to him and how we are and all the rest of it. And then obviously on Friday night, he was going back to his former club, and I said, "Do you want to play and stick one over on him?" And he said, "Oh, if you don't mind." And that was sort of the conversation we had. Was it to the detriment of any of our players? Not really. Don't think so, because they've all got enough minutes. I don't think any of them needed extra minutes. And it said, "Listen, he's not our player at the minute. We'll try, but there's no guarantee on that score. That's for sure. We'll see where we get to."
Just one final point. Delivering Daniels in. That was something that you've highlighted for a few weeks. You had your targets. He was in there. He was up there in the top targets. Delighted to bring him in, Dave, and I'm led to believe, you know, he's what you picked now, the real good character, the real good leader.
Yeah, I think anyone who's met him since he's been here will be impressed by him. Or if they haven't been, then I think they'll have met a different side to him that I've encountered so far. You know, he's an intelligent fella. He's got all the acquisitions, you know, the skills and the characteristics that we wanted in the player out on the pitch. So we've just got to make sure he gets a little bit fitter and see where we get to with him. And hopefully he'll play all the games and he'll have a good impact on the team.